Hello, hello. I've got my Twitch Yeti mug here. Kombucha. Got some kombucha. Happy, what is it, Wednesday? Day 2 of the draft. Fiona's in the house. Hey. I've got some props here today. I'm ready. Got Boston Pride new logo. Got Riveter's puck and Riveters. Look at that. This is from their championship. Don't worry, I've got the Buttes covered too. I've got my Buttes. Buttes Battalion. Shout out to the Buttes Battalion. They did these. Look at that. Look at that. Whoop whoop. Alright, what else? What else? Maybe we'll get a WCHA player. And I think I'll get to use this one today. NWSL. This is from the College Draft 2020. Here it is. Skirt. Alright, welcome. I'm going to bring in our guests for today. Operation Rescue the Banners. Yeah, no kidding. Alright. Hey everyone. Hey, it's Marisa Ingemi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well, you know, living this self-isolation quarantine life.
Oh yeah.
So, thank you for joining me for, this is only my second ever IG Live.
This is my first one.
All right, well, welcome. We'll learn together. So,
yes. Folks,
we have Marisa here. If you have questions for us as the draft is going, feel free to ask away. I was showing off a little bit of my swag here, trying to get ready. Looks like it's the Pride behind me right now. Pride.
I'm a fan.
Pride rally towel. Hello, Mandy. Hello, everyone. And also, it is 7 o'clock here on the East Coast, so you'll probably hear some noise outside my window. That's just East Harlem giving a heartfelt thank you to all of the essential workers, frontline workers, healthcare workers. So we've got a little bit of rain here, but my neighborhood is still out. Sometimes there's like a little DJ that comes out, so we get pretty hype.
That's fun.
Yeah. So Marisa, what are you up to these days?
Writing anywhere I can, just freelancing around. Past few days have been all NWHL, which has been kind of fun.
Right.
But yeah, just chilling in quarantine in Boston.
I'm saying, woof. Man, what a time. What a time to be alive.
Truly.
And covering sports. So I don't think we've gotten started yet. We'll have a few special guests again for all 3 rounds. I think you're going to stick around for round 3. Hoping to get a few other guests, but if you're around, we'll pop you back in. But what were your thoughts about the first 2 rounds?
Yeah, I mean, Boston getting Sammy Davis, I think we all thought saw that coming, so good pick for them. I thought that Connecticut did really well. I thought getting Howard was a great pick. I kind of thought she'd go to Toronto, and you kind of wonder if they would have come in and made that pick, and then Connecticut jumped in. So I thought that was a really great pick by Connecticut. And Carly Jackson going to Buffalo as well. I thought that was awesome to see a goalie go that early. I think we're going to see some interesting names tonight, too. There's some really good players who would have been worthy of going last night even.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think you know this as well as anyone, Marisa. It's always been kind of touch and go with the NWHL draft. I think to date, this is probably the most coordinated that we've seen it.
Oh, by far.
Sure, yeah, I'm not sure how much coronavirus had to do with that or not, but I would venture to guess, I should say, that it certainly helped as far as being able to speak to the athletes, people with a lot of downtime. You know, there was no tournament, unfortunately, this year, so it sounds as though the athletes were able to communicate in some way to the league and potentially to teams that they were interested in prior to the draft. So
yeah, I don't think we're going to see many players who were selected not sign into NWHL. I know a few people on Twitter have mentioned stuff like, oh, remember they might not sign. I'm pretty confident most of the players will sign because they have talked compared to in years past.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get a comment here, you know, like how the draft is bigger, but sometimes players don't sign and don't end up playing. I mean, you know, that's just kind of where women's hockey is right now, to be honest. If you get a job, you go back to grad school, situations change, and there's not a team, it might be a little bit tough. But we'll just have to wait and see. Season 6, we'll have 6 teams. All right, so I asked Mike Murphy joined me yesterday. I want to get your thoughts on this. So I think actually we might disagree on this, but so okay. Does the NWHL have an original 6 or not?
Technically speaking, it is the original 6 teams. Remember, was the NHL, the so-called original 6 were not the original 6 teams. There were like the Detroit whatever, or like there's some Detroit team, the Cougars, I think. There was Hamilton, there was the Montreal Wanderers, the original Ottawa Senators. So the original 6 refers to the 6 teams from the late 50s and 60s until the next expansion 6. So if we look at it like from that perspective, then sure, it can be an original 6. I do kind of like the idea of the NHL being, or the NWHL being its own entity and not adopting that because like they aren't a replica of the NHL. But at the same time, like it is an original 6 and founding 4. Like that's the more technically accurate thing, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going with founding 4, and not just because it
sounds cooler,
convenient for me. I think so. Let them do their own thing. So I think it'll be fun. So for me, what was really cool as someone who covers multiple sports, and I know you've been covering lacrosse for a number of years, I thought it was really cool to have some of the special guests kind of act as what we usually would see as a commissioner, and you would know this better than me for sure. You know, in the NHL at least, when the commissioner says anything, you get a lot of boos. And so we passed that, we forego that, and there's a lot of special guests, including Deputy Commissioner, I believe it is, Jessica Berman, right, from the NLL?
Yep. I thought it was really cool just how many figures that were women in sports, like from players to like literally Stephanie McMahon to executives and coaches and like all sorts of stuff. We saw almost every level represented by women in sports. And I thought that was really cool. And it's really just nice to see a women's sports league like the NWHL, one that has been considered controversial by some, to be embraced by so many women who are so important in the women's sports landscape.
Yeah, for sure. Excuse me, everyone. Finishing off the rest of my dinner. I've fried some plantains. They're very tasty. But yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. All right. Looks like we're getting our first message. What I've been doing
Paul
is just...
Rabel, hello. Another lacrosse person.
Super official here. There we go. Right on cue. I didn't know that was going to happen.
For your second night and the second round of the NWHL Draft. Thank you to Danny Ryland for inviting me. We have a number of similarities as leagues. The first and foremost is that we built our leagues for the players, and it's about power going back to the players and putting our players first in the competition, in your case on ice, and ours on field in front of as many people as possible. Congratulations to all the draftees thus far. I'm going to send it over to pro women's soccer player and U.S. national team member Nicole Barnhart.
Barney!
First pick of the second round.
So
enjoy.
That was... We've got just right on cue some lacrosse presentation, and now Barney from the NWSL.
Utah Royals FC of the National Women's Soccer League. I'm here to announce that with the first selection in the third round of the 2020 NWHL Draft, the Connecticut Whale select from Syracuse University forward Savannah Rennie.
Syracuse, Savannah Rennie.
I like it. Off the board a little bit.
There you go. So Syracuse has been a program, I think, that has really been on the rise in the last several years. And I like this because Connecticut, I think we all can agree, definitely could use some forwards. You know, get some young forwards in the mix for some of the players that have already re-signed and that will likely return. But what are your thoughts, Marisa, on that pick?
Well, of note, she's from Manitoba, so another Canadian. We've seen more Canadians go to non-Toronto teams than I expected so far.
Mm-hmm.
I expect a lot more Canadians to go later tonight, too. Especially some youth sports athletes, I think, are going to go later. So already
right.
NCAA Canada, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that was something that a lot of people were really curious to see is, whoop, there we go. You got to see a little bit of my desk.
Oh, we lost you.
No, I just flipped the camera for some reason. But yeah, I think that's something that people were really excited to see, whether we would get some youth sports athletes. We've still yet to see any, but the NWHL has had youth sports athletes. Well, at least one. I know that Tatiana Rafter came from the youth sports system. We've also seen, though, that the NWHL has had a history of Division III players in the league. I think Connecticut seems to recruit a lot from Norwich and the like. But you've also seen technically before, I guess it was before, what school is it that I'm thinking of? That Celeste Brown went to. And Courtney Kunichika. They were D3 before they went.
Adrian?
Not Adrian. Why am I blanking? My quarantine brain.
I think Division III schools. I'm
RIT
blanking now too because
RIT.
I haven't thought about Division III other than Norwich and Adrian.
Yeah, I think it was RIT.
Oh,
right?
RIT, yes.
Yep,
yes.
exactly. Thanks. Yep, Cloud9 was on it. RIT, yes, they were D3, and then they switched over to D1. So
I think Norwich is going to see a couple of players go tonight.
Norwich, I could see definitely for sure. As far as youth sports, or well, going back to Canadians also in the league, we've seen Canadians in the league, almost all of them from NCAA. But I mean, I don't know. I think yes, now that there's a team in Canada, that could mean that you will obviously see some Canadians that will be on that roster. But I don't think it's an automatic that they'll all be on that Toronto roster for a number of reasons. I think with any college student, really, sometimes college students do go back home where they're from, but sometimes they make roots in whatever community that they've called home for the last 4 years. But it's even longer for some of these athletes, particularly in hockey, where they've been away from home for a number of years.
No, I think that's true for sure. I think I just expected Toronto to kind of create a monopoly on some of those players just because of the excitement, just having Canadian representation in the league. I think Buffalo is still going to continue to have a lot of Canadians as well, especially for, like you mentioned, those who want to stay around where they got jobs into States. Maybe Buffalo is a good option for that. So yeah, definitely could see Canadians go all over the map.
Yep. All right, let's see. I've got to refresh here. I keep forgetting to refresh. Do we have another pick in yet? No. Still Barney.
Toronto's next.
Toronto is on the clock. I don't have any swag from Toronto to show.
You'd be the first one to have it if they have had it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I should have put in a special order. I have an old CWHL cup, but
count it.
I don't think it's not quite the same. It's a Markham Victoria Bach. Victoria Bach puck somewhere around here. Be you, girl. There you go.
One of my faves.
Yeah. I actually met her grandmother at that game. Sweet woman. Oh. Very sweet. Yeah. Her family's awesome. That's what's kind of cool. You make your way around the rinks. You get to know a lot of the fans that we have in the chat. Get to meet the families. Nice little small hockey community. But you kind of took that to the next level. You were a beat writer for the Bruins for, was it a little over a year?
Year and a half.
So, what was your favorite experience being able to cover NHL teams and travel to NHL arenas?
Definitely the Stanley Cup, going to Game 7. That entire experience, going to St. Louis, the people I got to meet, the hockey writers, hanging out with them. Definitely an experience I really did appreciate at the time. But now that's probably not going to happen again, or definitely not in Boston at least. I don't know what's going to happen from here. Definitely appreciate it all the more, like just how cool that really was.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not already, follow Marisa here on Instagram. You can follow her on Twitter. I know you recently put something up with power plays with Lindsay Gibbs. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, going to be doing a few different stories there for her. I'm really grateful that she wanted me to write a few things.
Excellent. Yeah, I've got some stuff in the works, hockey stuff as well with Lindsay. That's exciting. Started a Patreon. Let them know all those stuff. We want to, shout you out here.
Okay. I mean, my Twitter is the best place to find everything I'm doing at Marisa_Ingemi. Writing mostly for the Metro West Daily News in Framingham, Massachusetts right now. But part of their network with some other local papers. I had a story in the Concord, Massachusetts paper yesterday. One coming into Lexington, one coming into Weston, one soon. Kind of all sorts of stuff. A Waltham story coming tomorrow. And then I'm writing for the Ice Garden a little bit here and there, and then for Lindsay Gibbs at Power Plays, and maybe a couple more things down the road too. There's 2 or 3 other places I'm talking to right now, so my Twitter is the best to find everything.
All right, we've got another pick in.
Hi, it's Steve Dangle of Rogers Sportsnet up in Canada and the Steve Dangle podcast. I jumped at the opportunity to be involved in anything to do with actual hockey news right now, and this is a part of hockey history, because our next pick will become the first ever professional hockey player to come out of Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. If they've ever had another one, they've never mentioned it. So, with the 14th overall pick in the 2020 NWHL Draft, the Buffalo Beauts select from the Alberta Pandas, Autumn McDougall. Congratulations.
There you go.
Buffalo on a clock, not Toronto. That was my mistake.
Oh, good. We got it.
Hi, it's Steve Dangle of
Steve
Rogers
Dangle.
Sportsnet
So
up in
Danny
Canada
Ryland
and
was
Steve Dangle
on the
podcast.
Steve Dangle
I
podcast
jumped
today.
at the opportunity to be
I didn't get to
Okay,
listen
Steve.
to it. I know. Calm down, Steve. I didn't get to listen to it yet, but I think first of all, Danny doesn't do a lot of interviews, so that's really exciting. I'm excited to listen to it. But I think that there is, they always say any press is good press. I think we're getting a mix of media, especially north of our border here in the United States. And I think that makes a lot of sense, kind of given that we're in the middle of a health, pandemic, worldwide pandemic. Sports is not active right now. But then if you think even just of women's hockey, we know that there have been, a lot of differing opinions. There's been a rift after the CWHL folded. And that has created now the NWHL and, of course, the PWHPA. What's been your take on what the media rounds have been, particularly coming out of Ontario?
I think it's been a little more positive than I expected, only because, and this isn't necessarily reality, but the perception has always kind of been Canadians versus the NWHL. Maybe that's because the CWHL was the thing for a while, and most of those players ended up in the PWHPA. So that's kind of been the perception for a little bit, but the coverage up there has been pretty positive. I mean, Haley Salvian at The Athletic, I think, does a tremendous job, and I think she did a great job reporting on the whole thing. So I think it's been pretty good. I'll phrase it like this. Anyone who sees expansion of women's sports is a bad thing. I'm not sure is the people we should be listening to anyways, because expanding women's sports and providing opportunities, no matter what it is a positive, whether you believe in the PWHPA's approach or the NWHL's or a mix of both. I think all of it's good just for women to continue to play their professional careers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And yes, so that 14th 14th pick overall, that is Autumn McDougall coming out of U Sports, the University of Alberta.
Another Canadian.
That's right. Yeah. And Steve told us a little bit of history there, I guess, from her community. First hockey player? Wow.
Yeah, out of Cole Harbour. I heard about that the other day. I think that's really cool.
That is amazing. I love it. All right, let's see.
Now Toronto's on the clock. So. Because they mixed it with Toronto, where they got originally the first pick, then the second round, third round, which was an interesting way to go about it.
Yes. All right, folks, we're expecting this next pick to come in relatively soon, but if you have questions for Marisa or I, or just, whatever, make sure to pop those in. We'll answer those questions as they come in.
I think that we could see some of the D3 players go pretty soon. I think Amanda Conway out of Norwich is someone who's definitely going to go. I think Stephanie McGovern's another one who has a pretty good opportunity. Brianna Buchanan and Adrian, I think she's going to get a look as well. So those are some D3 names to watch. They might go into 4th or 5th round, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them go in the next couple picks either.
Yeah, I like those names for sure. All right, here we go. Natalie Achanwa, it looks like, is giving us the next pick. Natalie Achanwa of the Canadian basketball team. She's been on that team since she was about 14 years old. So she's a pro now, a veteran. Well, she's been a pro for a while in the WNBA. I don't know why it's not coming up on my laptop, but my iPad definitely told me the pick is coming in.
It might have been a deleted tweet because I just pulled up the NWHL Twitter and there wasn't anything.
Oh, skirt. Awkward.
Might have been too soon.
Yep, too soon. Okay, we have a question from Fiona. What is your favorite part of watching the draft? So I'll let my guest answer first.
I just really like to see the beginning of so many careers. Like, think of how excited everyone is that, like, their name is being called and they found out today they're going to be a pro hockey player no matter what. Like, that's really cool. So just thinking about all those people who are so excited, I think that's the best part of any draft.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, I think we're getting it. Here we go. Natalie Achanwa now. Oh, I love her shirt. Bet on women. Yes, ma'am.
With all that's going on right now, I hope that everyone is staying safe and looking out for one another.
Oh, sorry. Technology.
Indiana Fever of the WNBA and 2-time Olympian with Team Canada. With all that's going on right now, I hope that everyone is staying safe and looking out for one another. I also wanted to send my appreciation for the healthcare workers and everyone on the front lines.
Bet on
As
women.
a proud Canadian born in the beautiful city of Toronto, I am so excited to make this announcement. With the 3rd pick in the 3rd round of the 2020 NWHL Draft, the new Toronto team selects from York University, Toronto native forward Aaron Locke. Congratulations, Aaron.
Hey, all right, Aaron Locke.
More Canada.
So back to back. Yeah, back to back Canadians, back to back U Sports players.
You love
Again,
to see
that was Natalie Achanwa. She said she's from Toronto herself. And we see that someone said it was the wrong hashtag or wrong handle for the WNBPA. So it's not the WNBA-PA, it's the WNBPA, Women's National Basketball Players Association. Natalie Achanwa, again, has been a veteran in the WNBA for a number of years, on the Canadian team for a number of years. So good to see her bring that pick in. But she announces Aaron Locke.
Another Canadian, another U Sports player, more history for the NWHL, the first 2 U Sports players ever drafted, and they go back to back. That's really cool, and all Canadian 3rd round. I think there's kind of a little bit of a statement there too, just because, like I said, there's kind of been this perception of Canada versus the NWHL because of the CW, because so many of the Canadian players have gone to the PWHPA. I talked to a lot of people who believe Hockey Canada is heavily influencing Canadian national players to play in the PWHPA, which is why we're not going to see some names selected tonight that were some of the best seniors in college hockey, because the Hockey Canada presence with the PWHPA, but so many Canadians going, Toronto being in the picture. I think it's a really good statement for the NWHL that they're still going to explore getting the best players in the continent, in the world, no matter where they're from and no matter who wants to be a part of it.
Yeah, so we already have some international flavor also, given the first 2 rounds yesterday and today being definitely Canada heavy. But I think that that's also really interesting for all of the reasons that you just mentioned, although you were talking more about the North American, obviously, national teams. But I think overall, I think that also speaks a lot to where the game is at. The piece that I'm going to be doing for Power Plays actually takes us back to the first Frozen Four, women's Frozen Four. And Shannon Miller, of course, was the coach for Duluth. And in her first 2 years at Duluth, she really had a high priority on recruiting European players, that a lot of the schools that were, and most of them were actually on the East Coast, the schools at the time were really not looking at. And so now we kind of see that perhaps playing out here, to your point, with the NWHL There's always been an international flavor for the league. Now it's a matter of how well the league is able to create supports, I suppose is the best way of saying it, not only for international and European players, but truly for all players. And I think we've seen that ebb and flow over the first 5 seasons. But here's hoping that with the expansion, with now 2 of the teams being owned privately and separately, that some of that money can be repurposed to offer some of those supports.
Yeah, you look at what Boston did this year with private, independent ownership and how just like happy everyone on that team was. That success on the ice wasn't a coincidence. Off the ice, just having the comforts that they did made a big difference. You look at Buffalo when the Pigulas owned a team and just what a difference that made as well. So private, independent ownership is really important in the league. Going in that direction is a good sign. I know they don't want to expand anywhere unless they have something like that in place. They're not expanding for the sake of expanding. They want to do it with teams, with people involved in the league that are going to benefit the players. So I think it's a really good sign all around.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was really a treat to be able to watch that Boston Pride team up close this season. Relentless, I think, is the word that I used over and over again, being the color analyst for those games. And that was something that they really worked at. One of the last conversations I had with Kaylee Fratkin ahead of what would have been the Isabel Cup final, which of course has been postponed. One of the things that she wanted to make sure and set the record straight is that the success that they were seeing on the ice, that wasn't something that, just kind of came on a whim. They really pushed each other to make sure that they were their best at all times. We haven't been able to see an Isabel Cup final yet. I know that's something that's not necessarily, and you wrote about this, actually, you would know better than anyone. I really liked that piece where you interviewed, I believe it was Mallory Soliotis.
Yep.
And so, having her talk about where the team's at, and kind of Mal put everyone on notice. If they don't get to play the Izzy Cup, everyone else better watch out.
I can't even imagine how hungry that team's going to be next year if they don't get to win the Isabel Cup this year, or at least play for it. That game with Minnesota was going to be fantastic. I hope that we do get to see some form of that.
Absolutely. So again, my iPad's telling me that we've got a pick coming up. It looks like we're going to get a former governor of New Jersey. So I guess the Riveters are up next. Is that what I saw? I'm reading quickly here.
That is what
excellent.
It is.
I don't know why it's taking a little longer on my laptop. You wouldn't think that'd be the case, but who knows? Technology, right? Can't live with it. Can't live without it.
Always a
Hello,
test.
everyone. Welcome to our IG Live. Erica Ayala here with very special guest, Marisa Ingemi. We're talking about the NWHL Draft. Day 2 of the draft. Yeah, I still don't have it.
And looks like the Riveters made a goalie pick.
Oh, I thought that they needed to get a goalie in this draft for sure.
Took Yale goalie Tara Hoffman. I want to give it away.
Overall selection in the 2020 NWHL Draft. The Riveters have chosen from Yale the goalie Tara Hoffman. Congratulations, Tara.
Yeah, I thought that the Riveters needed a goalie. So now they have Hoffman and Tinker.
Great state of New Jersey.
The Riveters do. So hoping perhaps to get some of that built-in chemistry. I think that's really important in this league. Traditionally a pretty short season, although you did some reporting. You mentioned that you write for the Ice Garden, and you mentioned in your story that there will be an extended preseason, I suppose. So kind of training camp preseason. So that'll be a little bit different. But I think that we see teams that either bring a lot of their roster back or are able to establish kind of that camaraderie, and by bringing in players that have played together in college, they tend to start off pretty strong.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time you see that chemistry from players who played collegiately together. We saw that with BU and a Northeastern connection 2 seasons ago. I think you're right. I think a lot of the rosters stay the same going into next year, with the exception of players who want to go to Toronto. Boston's probably pretty locked in. They had a pretty good team. No one really wants to leave that environment. Minnesota's going to stay the same for the most part, only because geographically they're going to have a monopoly on the Midwest on Minnesota-based players. That's just going to be the way it is. Interested to see how much Buffalo retains now that there's a Toronto presence. So I think that's the big one where you might see things look a little bit different, especially because Buffalo could use a little bit of a shakeup in general, I think. The Riveters, too, I'm kind of interested to see what they do as their roster. Now they have a new goalie in there. At the end of last year, when Walter was injured, they kind of didn't know what to do in net for a little while. So we have someone like Hoffman in there now. That's a good addition. And just the fact that you're going to add a sixth team in the league, you don't really know who's going to go to the PWHPA or back and forth or whatever most of the time. You don't know who's going to end up going overseas. It's always good to have a lot of depth, and that player pool is expanding automatically with a sixth team. So just having more depth, more people in your organization is big.
Yeah, agreed. First, I want to say hello to Kelly Schultz, the voice of the Minnesota Whitecaps. Thank you for joining us, Kelly.
Hello, Kelly.
And please pop in to give us your thoughts about the Whitecaps pick so far and who you think is on the board, particularly coming from the WCHA. For those who don't know, Kelly is also the radio voice for the Bemidji State Beavers. She's also done some basketball games, so shout out to Kelly. And yes, Cloud9 giving us the shout out. Governor Whitman, that's Kate Whitman Annis's mother. So Kate she was an assistant coach last year, now serves as the general manager of the Riveters. So that's a family affair. Speaking of Kate, I mean, her and her family had an amazing setup. I loved her. She's got 4 boys, and they were all decked out in their Ribs swag. That was really adorable. But we've got another pick in
NHL crossover.
Yep. And speaking of the Whitecaps,
as a proud Badger, I'm proud to announce the 3rd round pick in the 2020 NWHL Draft. My home state, Minnesota Whitecaps, select Presley Norby from the University of Wisconsin. Congrats, Presley.
Presley Norby, forward from Wisconsin.
Hey, hockey fans, this is Ramick.
The first non-gopher to go to Minnesota so far.
All right, but still in the WCHA. Right on cue there, Kelly, for you. If you have any pointers about what we should be looking out for, let us know. From Presley Norby. All right, let's see. We have a question here. Opinion on Ryland saying they're looking into playing in multiple Toronto arenas. Seems like a decent amount of pros and cons. I've heard comments like that. Again, I did not hear. I'm assuming that's from Steve Dangle's podcast. I haven't heard that yet. Definitely pros and cons. On the one hand, I think the NWHL, at least for now, for the most part, has been a league where we're kind of stationary. And so if you want kind of season ticket holders, that could be a little bit difficult. The pro, I would say, is that the NWHL has seen success with their neutral site games. They always sell out Pittsburgh. The All-Star weekends have been successful. And, I mean, not for nothing, but the PWHPA in some ways has kind of showed what a barnstorming for women's hockey could potentially look like. I think we saw a lot of women's hockey actually on the move. The Penguins also hosted the Canadian women's national team, the U.S. national team, and 4 teams from the NCAA.
Yeah, I talked to Digit Murphy about this a couple weeks ago about the possibility of Toronto doing this. Some of it has to do is they can't go and like check out arenas right now because of like COVID and all that. So it's not so easy to just go and find a place and be like, this is our arena. They also really like they're putting an emphasis on having an arena that will have specific locker rooms for the teams. That's not everywhere. And the places that do have that are going to have other teams who play there with arena time that's already booked. So part of that has to do is bouncing around, making sure there's amenities every single night for the players. And that might not mean a home arena all the time. It's just something that's being discussed. It's not set in stone. And if COVID ended tomorrow, I think they'd be looking at finding an arena, but they just can't really do that right now. So it's definitely an interesting possibility.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it from that perspective. So I'm glad you were able to ask Digit Murphy about that. Of course, Digit Murphy is going to serve as the president of the NWHL Toronto team, to be named. I think there's a contest going on. If you have some ideas, some swatches that you want to put together for the for the jersey look. There's a contest going on. All right, Kelly gave us some insight. I love the picks for the Whitecaps, 2 Gophers, and now a Badger. Presley Norby has great hands. She's tricky with the puck and gritty. Hard to play against. I like a gritty player for the Minnesota Whitecaps. I think a lot of times the Whitecaps are kind of known and kind of pegged into this box about their speed. They definitely, I think, already have some gritty players, but I think being able to be a little bit more physical, particularly on the defensive end, and really be able to push some weight around to then open up space for their speedy players. I like that, just generally speaking.
Yeah, that's a team that's definitely identified by its speed. You talk to anyone in the league about what you have to do to prepare for Minnesota, and it's prepare for their speed. Yeah. And if you have some players who can create space, use some physicality, grind it out a little bit to create more room for those speedy skaters to move up the ice, that can only be a benefit.
Yeah, I forgot I have some Whitecap stuff too. This is Audra Richards. She got me some apples. She got some assists this season, so I promised I'd get her jersey. So I've got everyone but Toronto represented in I literally have like a bin of random women's hockey stuff.
You have to love that.
I never know what to do with it, but today I'm able to pull it out and show it on IG Live. So.
Oh, the Pride have made a pick.
Yep, I saw that come up on my. I saw it come up on my iPad.
Another UNH alum.
Yeah, UNH, right? Yep.
The Pride love their UNH girls.
Yep.
Christina Patinia this year, and now one of her teammates. I used to call UNH games a couple of years ago, so I'm very familiar with this team.
Ah, there you go. There you go.
With Taylor Winkowski, who she's a great story. She was injured her freshman or sophomore year, I believe. She missed a year there and came back, and it was a tough rehab for her. She came back, started producing right away. She's someone who's a captain for her team, tremendous scorer, has a lot of grit to her game as well. She can definitely get in front of the net. She has a really good shot. I really like that pick for the Pride.
I love it. Here we go. I'm going to pull it up for everyone.
Not to keep giving spoilers.
That with their third round pick in the 2020 NWHL Draft, the Boston Pride have selected from University of New Hampshire, Taylor Winkowski.
There you go. Another forward.
I love how they have their coach introduce that pick. That's really cool.
Yeah, and usually they have also like a quote graphic. Phil's in the chat. Oh man, both of us have worked with Phil before. That's my partner for Connecticut Whale Games. I guess 3 seasons strong now, Phil. Wow, poor guy's got to deal with me. Hope you're doing well, Phil. Hope everyone, of course, is doing well. Thank you for all those who are still considered essential workers, and for people like Kelly who are volunteering their time and their gifts and skills to make sure that we all can stay safe. The Ice Garden did a great story on Kelly Schultz, who is sewing up some masks, and I know there are a lot of other people within the hockey community doing that so far. So thank you all. Thank you all for being here and joining us. If you have questions or comments, pop them in the chat. As the picks come in, I will, just for everyone, you can certainly watch on your own devices, but eventually I'll get the video up and we'll then discuss it. So Marisa gave us a little bit of insight about this pick.
Don't be surprised that's not the last UNH pick for the Pride either.
Oh, you think they'll go? Who do you have your eye on, position wise? Forward, defender.
There's a certain forward who I think is going to be probably selected next round.
All right.
They like their UNH players.
UNH.
Imagine an all UNH line next year. If they're going to break up their quote unquote perfection line, then imagine an all UNH line.
Oh, wow. I mean, right? The rich get richer, as they say. Do you think that the Pride would benefit from taking a defender in this draft?
I think they're so deep on defense. I mean, they're so deep at forward too, but assuming all their defenders come back next year, that's a really good group that they have. It's hard to imagine any of them sitting out for anyone unless they were to get a real stud in there. I think there's a defender from Northeastern they might be interested in, and that could create some competition there potentially. But you already have Kaylee Fratkin coming back. Mallory Suliotis is likely back. Lauren Kelly's likely back. I think they're one of the deepest teams in the league on defense, so I don't think they have to really do much there. They're so deep. It's the type of thing you just want to create more depth. You want to have more youth on the team. And I think at forward, I think this is a very good forward heavy draft, especially as you go deeper into it. And they're just going to take the best players available because they're in a position they don't really have to fill any weaknesses.
Yeah, again, the rich get richer. I think this is a solid team. Paul Mara, I think, is really a story that I've found very interesting. The Pride, after season 2, I suppose it was, they had a lot of different turnover at the coaching position and struggled to find their footing. But when Paul came in, I think he's been able to stabilize. We see that he's already signed a multi-year deal. We've never seen that before for
the players just love him.
Yeah, they do. There's a lot of respect. He challenges them. He likes to poke and prod at Colton Orr a little. Those two are fun when they're coaching against each other. I think that he has a good understanding of what he can get out of his players, and he tries to push his players while also knowing that they have a lot of other things going on. And from everyone that I've spoken to, Coach Mara himself included, he does a really good job of balancing that and pushing the right buttons at the right time in the season, which is important.
There's a lot of mutual respect there, and they believe in his approach, and he just understands. He genuinely believes he has the best team in pro hockey, and he's going to let them go and do their thing. He knows they're going to play to their strengths, and he trusts them and their chemistry together because a lot of those players were there before he was there. So he really trusts his leadership group, relies a lot on Jillian Dempsey, relies a lot on Kaylee Fratkin, and I think that mutual respect really helps them. They really are the best team in pro hockey if you want to look at it.
Hey, I'm here for it.
We'll never know the result of the Isabel Cup potentially, but forever we can just say, well, they lost one game, so it's them.
That one kind of stings. That would have been my first time in the booth for the Isabel Cup, but there are more important things happening. I know you and Phil were able to call. That one was the neutral site game.
That was the one in Lowell.
Yeah.
That was a crazy day because I spent the first half of that day in Boston covering the high school Massachusetts hockey championships and writing about that, and then got on a train up to Lowell just in time.
Wow. You work
crazy.
nonstop. I'm so inspired by just how hard you work and the quality of work that you put out. You found a way to still cover the NWHL whilst on the Bruins beat the year that they go to the Stanley Cup. I mean, I've been it's been such a joy to be your colleague and to truly feel like, you are a mentor of mine, even though I'm older than you, but that's how life is. And I really respect what you do for sports journalism.
You're the best, Erica. What you've done to really rise into women's hockey reporting ranks is really incredible. I look forward to all your content all the time.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I mean, that's why I was like, let's get Marisa on here. She knows her stuff, folks. She knows her stuff. Kelly says she's still making the masks. So, of course, we're going to give Kelly a shout out. Heck yeah, we're going to give Kelly a shout out. We'll see if any of the picks get, should I say, spicy? Oh, man. So, yeah, if you have questions, let us know. We had Mike Murphy, the stats man, on here. He's got a big stats project he's coming out with. He's really good with stuff like that. I love it. He puts so much work into really trying to get to elevate the analytics. It's amazing. I think there's really doesn't it feel like hockey analytics is having a moment?
Oh my God, it definitely is. I mean, especially
right?
Some of the conferences we've seen on Zoom and the video chats going on in the hockey analytics community. How many women are involved in that is awesome too, by the way.
I know.
It's so cool to see how many people are involved and how many people are just so much smarter than I am and know what the numbers say.
I know. I'm I don't know anything about the numbers, but I know they're important, so I always listen. Allison from The Athletic, want to give her a shout out.
Oh, she's
I love that story that she wrote she wrote that story about the Ohio State University and their focus on analytics. That was great. Of course, Megan, who she did a pick. She did the first pick, I think, for Toronto yesterday, right?
Yeah, Megan's incredible. What she's done to organize the hockey stats community is amazing.
Crushing it. So many great names. And then you have Alyssa out in Australia. I think I do have a puck from the Australian League somewhere. I'll dig in, try and find that. But it's really great. Stats Masters, that's right. All those Stats Masters, make sure to follow them. Lots of great stuff.
I'm trying to find my story I wrote about Taylor Winskowski like 3 years ago right now.
I love it.
From so long ago, and I'm like, is it still on the internet somewhere?
I know, that's always the worst, right? When you can't find your stories.
Well, when I look up stuff now, it's like all Bruin stuff, and I'm like, that's great, but I don't need to use any of that stuff ever again.
Who knows? It's out there. You did it. Be proud of it.
We'll find it.
Yeah. Let us know where you're watching
there
from,
it is.
folks. Allison is really good at making the numbers make sense in English. Agree. That's 2 thumbs up for Allison. She's great.
Allison is legit one of the best NHL follows, best hockey follows, period.
100%.
She's so smart and she's so nice.
100%. Nadine Muzerall told me a really great story. So I referenced that story over at The Athletic. Highly recommend that you read it. It's about the OSU women's hockey team using analytics, advanced analytics. And so I asked her about that story, and she told me that, Allison connected her with John Tortorella at some point in time. And I forget exactly why the two connected, but, being in Ohio, both of them, and, towards just giving her a shout out for what she's been able to do with that program. And of course, we saw what the Ohio State University was able to do, and they won their first ever WCHA title this year. What I thought was interesting, though, from what Nadine Muzerall told me, is that, and I put a little bit of this in, shout out to the 9 newsletter, but in my interview with her, she told me that when she started with the job, she was transitioning, she had a young child, her house was being remodeled, there was just like all of this like life stuff happening. And then she also had to worry about, even though she was already married, like visa situations and stuff, her being Canadian. And so the first few weeks of the season, so I guess leading up to their first games, she wasn't even coaching. They had to, I think she said one of the men's team coaches was coaching her team. And just, she's been able to build up from there. And she really considers this last group of seniors to be like her class, because they were freshmen for her first year coaching. It was just a really great story. She tells great stories. My goodness. I love a good story. So, Coach Muzzy out there in Ohio is really crushing it. All right. Do we have another
4th round coming up?
All right. Oh, 4th round is coming up. Well, this
Connecticut should be on the clock.
Oh, if that's the case, I think this is the pick that I did. So.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah, it's like, here's this video of me.
So you know who it's going to be.
I do.
Ooh. The intrigue.
Yeah, if we're in the 4th round.
I guess I will give my predictions then.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
I really, really have been pushing for, because I think it's a good fit for Amanda Conway on Connecticut, and this feels like it would be good timing. So that is my only takeaway.
Okay.
And you have a great poker face.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Last night, they spent a longer time between the last pick of the 1st round and the first pick of the 2nd round, so I think we're seeing some of that right now, too.
Yeah, definitely. This is like musical interlude or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, it was fun to be able to participate a little bit here. If we're in the 4th round, I'm pretty sure. Like, I think that's what I did. Hope I got it right. They would have told me, right? They would have told me otherwise. I'm sure it's fine.
I mean, who's to say? It's women's hockey. We don't know what's going to happen.
So if we see like my mouth dubbed over, it's like, nope, you killed it. Fail. I'm better off the cuff. Scripts are not my friend.
I always have much more trouble with scripts than I do like live action, and that's just from doing play-by-play. I'm used to just like, oh, you have to go or else you're fired. So
just go with it. Exactly.
The more pressure, the better.
Oh, man.
So who else do you think could go this round?
Well, again, I have to look past Connecticut here. Let's see. I hate scripts too, as Kelly says. I think we're a little short on defenders. I'd like to see some D go. I agree with you though. I'd be a little bit surprised if we see a defender go to Boston. I mean, honestly, it's kind of like in the WNBA this year in particular, you almost felt bad for certain rookies going to certain teams because their training camp was going to be so tough, and cracking that roster is going to be so tough. That's kind of how I feel about Boston. I think, particular positions for other teams are probably much quote unquote easier. And, we don't necessarily have a training camp. So if you're getting drafted, you're likely to make the roster if you're going to play. So it's a little bit of a different situation. But I think this potentially could be a draft where, we see players that are really fighting. Oh, gosh, yeah, it is me coming up.
Let's go.
Let's go. Oh, here I am.
Now we turn it over to Erica.
Here's a video of myself.
And Connecticut Whale games on the NWHL on Twitch. Also, the host of the Founding Four podcast. I bring you this message hoping that you and your loved ones remain safe and healthy. I'm excited to announce that with the first pick of the 4th round of the 2020 NWHL Draft, the Connecticut Whales select from Norwich University, forward Amanda Conway. Congratulations, Amanda. I look forward to seeing you.
Your poker face is really good.
You mentioned her earlier. I almost said, I was like, well, you mentioned that. I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to do that. I don't think I'm supposed to do that. So, yeah.
That's a really great fit. Conway is so good. Norwich is such a great Division III program. They've produced a few pro players already, but Conway has the skill to compete with any Division I player, any other pro player. I think she's going to become a star for that Connecticut team.
Yeah, I did a little research there, and Massachusetts native, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And has just even through high school and whatnot, really been someone that has been well respected and revered. So I'm excited to see what Conway can bring to the Connecticut Whale. Again, you want someone that's feisty, that knows how to play hockey, is confident in their skill, but can also create and really build on the team and what's happening. And that's what I think is really key for Connecticut. I think that, yes, they want skill, but I think they also need to have someone that kind of fits into the mindset and the mentality. I think Connecticut is just a team that they really focus in on being about the team. They play a very team style defense in particular. I think sometimes though that handcuffs them, and they don't have players that necessarily are comfortable or can kind of really execute it and push that forward into the offensive zone. So I'm looking for size. I'm looking for just dynamic, really smart players to go to Connecticut. And from everything that I can tell, Conway is that type of player.
And geographic wise too, it makes a lot of sense because like we talked about earlier, Toronto, Buffalo, they're going to get a lot of the Canadians. Minnesota's going to get most of the Midwest players. a lot of the Massachusetts or Boston locals are going to play for the Pride, which is where Connecticut, it's tough competition because that's their geographic area. They're stuck between the Riveters and the Pride. And a lot of the New England locals are going to go play in Boston. So for Connecticut to get a really strong player, someone from the Boston area who is going to go play in Connecticut, that's a really great get for them. We saw this with Emily Fluke. They had her for a couple of years. She ends up going to Boston because just geographically it made sense. She's from there. They've been a better team historically, so she goes and plays there. So for Connecticut to get some really good players locally, that's really big for them because it's kind of a struggle where they are, like I said, between the Riveters and the Pride.
Yeah, absolutely. We say a few folks in the chat saying she's got a great hockey name. You know, the first Conway I ever heard of in hockey was someone by the name of Charlie. Played for the Ducks. Yeah, so I think that's a good pick. So we're into the 4th round already. In a little bit, so IG Live, they only let you go for 60 minutes, so we might have to pop out here. Just FYI, but we'll get a 2-minute countdown. I'll let everyone know, but we'll come right back and finish this out. But if you have questions for Marisa or me, let us know. Can kind of keep it open to whatevs. So we had a WNBA player, we had an NHL player, we had lacrosse representation,
Head coach.
Yep, college head coach.
Yeah.
NWSL, I don't think I said that already. We had some broadcaster, I don't know, whatever. So I'm excited to see. We still have, I believe, Florence Schelling is
she should be
coming up.
She was on the list, so I would expect her.
That's right. Yes, we had a former governor of the great state of New Jersey. Yeah, and a Riveter's mom in one way or another. Oh, man. I'm getting a lot of love. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. You know, it's a little special guest commissioner appearance. That was fun.
That your first draft pick announcement?
Yeah. First ever, you know, maybe the only, but, you know, that was pretty exciting. And, you know, it's been really cool to be a part of that Connecticut franchise and see them grow. I think Bray Ketchum-Peel has done an amazing job in her first year as the general manager. Of course, I already gave some love to Phil. He's been there since the beginning. Just a really great organization, and you want to see good things happen there. I did an original 8 series for the Founding 4 podcast, so I spoke to Shannon Doyle, spoke to Jordan Brickner, and Elena Orlando, who didn't start with the Whale, but has been with them for the last 4 seasons. And, I mean, those players, they want to win, you know, but they also want to win the right way. And, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see if any of these rookies can kind of push them and elevate this franchise to the next level.
Especially with just how much depth is going to be in the league now with another team. That player pool is going to be distributed a little bit differently now. And I think we have a pick.
We do. Oh, is this Kevin Weeks?
Yes,
is that who that is?
Friends and associates are healthy, safe, upbeat, and staying positive as we continue to battle this global pandemic that is COVID-19 together as one. Now, I'm super pumped to know that there's an NWHL expansion team in my hometown of Toronto. That's awesome. It's great for the sport, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rivalry that will ensue between this new expansion team in Toronto and the Buffalo Beauts in Western New York. For those of you that know that Southern Ontario, Western New York kind of peninsula in and around Lake Ontario, you know that the fans are super pumped. You know how excited they are, and you also know that they're hyper and very passionate. So I look forward to seeing that rivalry here in the NWHL as we go forward. That being said, with the 20th overall selection, the Buffalo Beauts select from Adrian College defender Kelly O'Sullivan. Congrats, Kelly.
The Division 3 round.
There you go.
I kind of figured they might go the Division 3 route, and getting a defender makes a lot of sense. They have a history with Adrian, obviously. So definitely some chemistry possibilities there. And yeah, the Division 3 round is underway.
Yep, here we go. All right, folks, we're going to step away. Got about another 30 seconds in this chat, but we're going to re-up and come back. Marisa, you're down for the rest of the draft?
I am here.
All right, awesome. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, but pop back into the chat, into the IG Live, and we'll finish out the draft. All right. Hey, we're back. We're back. Getting my kombucha on. Thank you for coming back, everyone. Hope you're having a great NWHL draft night. This is the second night, night 2. We're already into the 4th round. Hey, Kelly. Hey, Fiona. I'm here with Marisa Ingemi. Honestly, having to do this on my own without either Mike Murphy, who I had yesterday, or Marisa here would be like, I feel like you'd be cheated. So glad to have Marisa. We just had Kevin Weeks announce the 20th overall pick for the Buffalo Beauts. All right, we're getting Marisa back. All right.
Hello again.
Had a nice little break.
I got to send a tweet.
Got a new tweet. Here we go. Refresh, refresh, refresh. This is kind of fun. Oh, here we go. Let me do it this way. Oh, I know this person. I'm
excited to announce that with the 21st overall... Hi, everyone. Madison Tiernan here, midfielder with Sky Blue FC of the National Women's Soccer League. As a big Metropolitan Riveters supporter, I'm excited to announce that with the 21st overall selection in the NWHL Draft, the Riveters select from Franklin Pierce University defender Bridget Prentice.
I love it. Franklin Pierce, let's go.
Let's go. Franklin Pierce. That's right. We've got Cloud9 in the chat. Cloud9, for those who do not know, that's the supporters group of Sky Blue FC where Madison plays. Madison, she's a real one. When she says that she's been with the Riveters, she did a really great video with Kim Sass, where they kind of swapped. That was a lot of fun. And then, of course, the Riveters and Sky Blue FC have been supportive over the last several years. But we get another pick here for the Riveters. What do you think about this pick for the Ribs?
I thought she might go to Buffalo because she's from Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great pick. She's been really solid at Franklin Pierce, one of the best players for that program. A defenseman, finally. We have a defender go. And the Riveters are a team, they could add some more defense as well. We talked about that earlier a little bit. So I think that's a really good pick. That's a good addition. I thought she might even go a little bit earlier in the draft, to be honest.
Yeah, Prentice is definitely one of those names that even as someone who kind of casually follows in and out, I definitely have heard about. So yeah, I like this for the Riveters. I think that they're a team that took a little bit of time to find their footing. And one of the areas, though, that I was a little bit concerned about for them at times last season was defense. Mm-hmm. And also they only had 2 goalies for a lot of the season, which eventually, unfortunately, we saw was a little bit of a challenge. So I was really glad to see that they also picked up a goalie. I don't think that necessarily means we won't see Sam Walther. I think someone asked about that earlier, but we also know that Sam Walther did suffer an injury, and I think she came back and maybe tweaked something again. So you just have to take that into consideration.
Feels like a really complete draft for the Riveters so far.
I think so. I like that. I like how you put that. Yes, absolutely. And again, I think they had pockets kind of in all areas, all places on the ice where they could definitely beef up what they had. I think you saw them do that throughout last season, though, right? With returning Kelly Nash or Ashley Johnston, and again, bringing in a goalie. So I think they did that as the season went on. I think the Connecticut Whale also had to kind of do that as the season went on. but now I think both teams are really trying to stack up their cards prior to. If I'm being honest, I also think that the Connecticut Whale and the Riveters were impacted in probably maybe most impacted by the PWHPA kind of deciding to do something a little bit different. So those teams, it would make sense that they had to really establish as the season went on. And that's kind of where we saw Connecticut in particular really burn through those PTOs.
And something about Prentice, by the way, just as a note, she's an offensive defender. She had 45 points last year. And as for a Franklin Pierce team, that was their first year as a Division I team. They were kind of bouncing around there, playing games against D1 and D2 teams for a little while. So she really made her mark in the first year of the D1 program for Franklin Pierce. I think Riveters fans are really going to enjoy watching her play. But to get back to your point, I think you're correct that those teams definitely lost the most by the PWHPA kind of coming to be a thing. Boston and Minnesota were pretty safe. Of course, they lost their Olympians, but they still had really solid bases outside of that. You look at Boston, like with Jillian Dempsey and McKenna Brand, and they're not Olympians, but they're the next best thing. So teams like that definitely kind of got off a little bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, these are they're areas that were already established when it came to professional women's hockey, which predates the NWHL that we know today. That goes back even to the CWHL and again that Boston community. Okay, we have a question. Shout out to Gal Pal Sports. Do you foresee a similar situation brewing next year where PW players come back as PTOs? That's interesting. I think we will see PWHPA players, some PWHPA players decide to either come back to the NWHL or join the NWHL for the first time. We've actually already seen that. As far as PTOs, I don't know. I think we saw some PWHPA players come in as PTOs because whether regionally, because they maybe moved, which was the case with Jordan Giron. She was in that PWHPA Buffalo region, but then wasn't really in Buffalo, or, some other players like maybe an Alexa Armbrew, where she's in this metropolitan region, but maybe wasn't necessarily cracking the rosters, so to speak, or able to travel to some of the events that they had over the weekend. Those are the types of players that were coming in as PTOs. So it's hard for me to say right now without knowing yet what the PWHPA schedule is going to be. But I think we will see some players sign. And I think it's easy to kind of make this and to kind of put this as fuel to the fire of the conversation of the us versus them or this versus that. But I think honestly, it boils down to, regardless of where you're playing or what you're calling it, women's hockey right now, the players have a lot of agency, and they can make choices to play or not to play, and then where to play. And it's a matter of how much they want to play versus what are the opportunities available. So I think there's a lot of factors that we have to take in, and really it boils down to what that individual wants and what they're able to do.
I think that agency is really important. That was one of the reasons when the CWHL existed and people would want to kind of pit them against each other. I thought it was a good thing that players could kind of choose where they wanted to go. I never thought it was like a really bad thing, or, they should just become one league or whatever, because players having a choice gives them some sort of control over their own destiny. And I think that's important right now, because we see sometimes people shaming people going to one league or another. And I think that really takes away from it, because these are players making choices for their own personal lives. None of them are making a ton of money off of this, no matter where they end up. And I think it's best that everyone respects they do what's best for them personally. So I don't think it's a bad thing that there are choices right now at all. I think people who do try to create it to be a bad thing have either their own agenda, or they just lack the understanding of what it's like for these players right now.
Yep, I would agree. All right, we have another member of Team Canada, another WNBA player, Kayla Alexander.
Out of Syracuse University and current member of the Minnesota Lynx of the WNBA. As someone who's proud to come from Milton, Ontario, I'm really happy that the NWHL has expanded to Toronto. And I'm also excited to announce that with the 4th round selection in the 2020 NWHL Draft, the new NWHL team in Toronto selects from Robert Morris University,
Ooh.
by way of Thornhill, Ontario. Forward, Natalie Marcuzzi. Woo! Congratulations, girl. Represent us proudly. We're all rooting for you.
I don't know. I think Kayla might have the best hype so far in the third and fourth round. But what do you think about this pick, 22nd overall?
Second Robert Morris player to go. They're obviously a pretty strong program. I think that's a good pick. I mean, for a Toronto team they're building, they want to have a lot of young players who are going to be a part of things. I think Marcuzzi's going to be in a mix. She's definitely going to have a chance to compete to be on one of their top two lines. That's a really good pick for a fourth rounder.
Yeah, I like Marcuzzi. We're seeing in the chat another CHA player going. Now that's a conference that I think when we talk about women's hockey is kind of on the come up. I think we've definitely seen players come from there or even coach there. I'm thinking of a certain former Butte maybe and be associated there. But I think you said this. I think you wrote about it. Maybe it was for the Ice Garden, but this was such a great NCAA season. The 2019-2020 season. I alluded to WCHA, Princeton also getting their first title. Robert Morris had some great games down the stretch. I think this was such a great college season, and I'm really excited to see the momentum. And again, regardless of here's my hope, is that the players that are coming out of this season that are seniors that are able to play and still want to play, I hope they hit the ice because they gave us such a great NCAA. So many acronyms. I can't get my letters right. Such a great college. There we go. Such a great college season that I really do hope we get to see them hit the ice again because all of women's hockey wins if that happens.
Oh, for sure. And something I wrote about for the Ice Garden about Northeastern the year I thought they had a really magical year. And especially in a season where they only had 3 seniors, so they had a lot of players who are going to come back and they kind of lose that postseason experience now, and that's really disappointing. But this was a year it really felt kind of wide open, and Northeastern was one of those teams that could have taken advantage of that maybe. BU ended up getting knocked out, but they had a really good team that was really fun to watch all year. I'm someone who pays a lot of attention to Hockey East and the East Coast teams, and I thought it was a really fun year to watch. I'm also just going to shift because my phone is dying and I need to plug it in.
Oh yeah, do what you got to do. While Marisa is doing that, this is a reminder to everyone watching. First of all, thank you. This is only my second ever IG Live. Marisa, this is her first. So we're new to this, but wanted to bring the women's hockey community to Instagram IG Live. If you have questions for us about the draft, any of the picks that have been made so far, or any of our coverage of hockey, please pop in, let us know. Marisa, writes for basically every publication under the sun.
Anyone who will let me.
When it comes to hockey, I was talking earlier, she's such a grinder. When unfortunately we saw that she was not going to have a position with the Herald, I knew it wasn't going to be long before she kind of found a place to get us all her amazing writing. So I'm very thankful for that. But she's a great mind. So if you have questions, that's why I wanted to bring Marisa on here. Please ask her. We have Kelly in the chat. I think Phil might still be here. These are all amazing resources that have been great for me as I've been coming up in the last several years in this women's hockey space. So ask us questions. Go for it as we're waiting for this next pick.
I think Kelly is saying this is her pick.
Oh, Kelly Schultz. Thank you, Lady Swordfish. Thank you for popping in. We're happy to ask any questions. And I also know some of you might be coming from my women's basketball coverage. Shout out to Ari. Shout out to Kelsey, who really helped me elevate women's hockey in the past few days. If you have questions, basic questions about hockey, about women's hockey, feel free to ask. We want to learn all together. If you have questions about some of the special guests, between Marisa and I think we got you covered there.
So Minnesota's next, then Boston, and then it'll go to the 5th round. Boston has Toronto's 5th round pick this year too from the trade they made earlier in the week, so that's important to note. So Boston has 2 picks left. I think they go UNH again, and then I really like a Northeastern defender there as well. So I like how their draft is rounding out. Minnesota kind of predictable, keeping with the Midwest. I love Connecticut's draft.
As the play-by-play announcer.
Oh, it's time for Kelly to talk.
It is. No, it's okay.
It's Kelly
I'm just saying
Schultz.
I love Connecticut's draft.
Hi, it's Kelly Schultz. As the play-by-play announcer for the Minnesota Whitecaps and the Bemidji State Beaver women's hockey teams, I'm super proud to make this announcement. With the 23rd overall pick in the 2020 NWHL Draft, the Minnesota Whitecaps select from Bemidji State University forward Haley Mack. Congratulations, Haley. Roll Caps and go Beavers.
Woohoo! Congratulations, Haley Mack. And look at that, Kelly Schultz with the pick. Amazing. Since I met Kelly, she's been putting Bemidji State and a lot of the WCHA players that aren't necessarily making national team rosters or getting love from, at the time, the CWHL and the NWHL. She has been a great resource. And so I could hear it in her voice how excited she was to be a part of Haley's draft experience. So thank you for that, Kelly. And feel free to, again, Kelly's a great resource. I think she's still in here if you have questions about Haley, if you have questions about the WCHA. But I'll give it to you, Marisa. What do you make of this pick for Minnesota?
It's a good pick. Really cool to see a Bemidji State player off the board, too. You always love to see some of those schools that don't get the recognition that are really good hockey schools. So I think that's really cool. Their second non-gopher to be selected as well. So that's pretty cool. I like Mac. She's a forward. She's another forward addition for the Whitecaps that are already so deep there. So that's going to be a really good competition there in training camp for them to have another forward added. Kelly's going to know this a lot more than I do, but for my research, she's a pretty good player, shorthanded. She's a good penalty killer. She's pretty quick on those kind of things. So I think that's another really good addition for the Whitecaps.
Shout out to Avery Sports.
Hi,
Avery. Hope you're holding it down. We met, I guess, back at Hockey Hall of Fame when a certain Willie O'Ree and Jana Hefford were going in. So good to see you, bud. Hope you're well.
I've known Avery for a very long time. Back when I was covering lacrosse, he is the best.
Absolute best. I love all the people that were getting into this. It's always great. Marisa, I know you can attest to this even on the NHL side. But when you get events, and, we're doing a lot of events digitally these days, but it's just great to meet folks that you've been following, that you've been listening to, reading their work, to meet them in person, to learn from them, to see how they work in person is just one of the greatest joys of being in the sports world. And so, Avery, we're glad to have you. I'm sure you have thoughts on women's hockey coming back to Canada, this time by way of the NWHL. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think, overall there's a lot of excitement. There's obviously a lot that we still want to learn about the NWHL Toronto team.
Oh, sorry. I got a text and my phone got all messed up.
No, do your thing. I got you.
No, my phone got messed up, so I didn't hear the end of what you said.
No, I was just saying that, it's a good time to connect with folks when we have events like this. These days digital, but seeing Avery here, seeing Kelly here, really great. Kelly gives us a little bit of a scout on Haley Mack. She said her speed is unreal. Oh man, more speed to Minnesota.
They're gonna own all the speed at some point.
She's a goal scorer, hard worker, smart, and great hockey instincts. I mean, that's just kind of the MO for this Minnesota team. And, I was saying on Twitter, I really want to see the Minnesota Whitecaps rely on that WCHA talent a little bit more. And yes, of course, people responded to me that they always have. But I do think it's been centralized to the Twin Cities area. And I guess that makes sense. But I'm glad to see that we're seeing that expand a little bit more. And of course, with this Bemidji pick, I think that's great. Ooh, someone from WNBA Twitter. Shout out to WNBA Twitter. Thank you so much for joining. Yes, I know that Marisa and I definitely are always down to support women's sports, so we're glad to see the crossover. And we have another pick in, so let's go to the video.
Hi everyone, I'm Donna DeVerona, two-time Olympic gold medalist in swimming and member of the International Women's Sports Hall of Fame. Today I'm honored and proud to announce that with their 4th round pick in the 2020 NWHL Draft, the Boston Pride has selected from Clarkson University defender Taylor Turnquist. Congratulations, Taylor.
All right, Taylor Turnquist. Let's get the photo. Gotta get the photo there for the viewers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Donna DeVerona.
I am proud
Donna
to say that
DeVerona.
I tweeted moments before how much I like Taylor Turnquist as a pick, so I'm liking that one. Really
Look
good
at
defensive
that.
addition.
Marissa's got it. Yeah.
Really good defensive addition there. We talked about earlier, they're pretty deep at defense, but they're, again, the type of team that they don't have to draft for need. They can draft for the best player available. I know the Pride really liked Turnquist for a while from talking to everyone associated with the team. They really look at Clarkson all the time. And Turnquist is one of the better defenders. I'm kind of surprised she fell this far. So I think that's a really great pick for them. And they might not be done on defense either because there's still someone from Northeastern I think they really want.
Oh, all right. So we did get some D. I think anyone who's like heard me speak for 5 minutes knows that I love defenders in all sports. I'm all about the defense. So I was inclined to agree with you. Do they necessarily need defenders? No, but why not? Why not? You know,
You can draft the best available.
Exactly. If you have that luxury. And let's not forget that Boston had injuries. And they had to kind of, you know, they went really short on D because they had to push some folks up and in different positions and use some PTOs. So again, in this season, I get the sense that all teams are wanting to really build up through the draft and not have to rely on PTOs as much as they did last year. We know that there was a lot unfolding in women's hockey, so that's probably why we saw PTOs used the way that they were. But like you said, if you have the luxury of being able to work it through the draft, why the heck not? Maybe someone comes through early season, preseason, training camp, quote unquote, and they really make an impression. And that's what you want. That's where you want the sport to build, right? Not just get what you absolutely need, bare necessities, but be able to build. And I think that's a good sign overall.
And you're right, Boston did have to bring in a couple of PTOs last year when they had some injuries. Lauren Kelly was out for a little bit, and that did shake things up. So having some players who are young who can step in there. Remember, the Pride had a good defensive corps they kind of lost when the PWHPA came into existence. Tony Miano was going to be a real star there, and now she's not in the picture anymore, so they do have to build up from that. But the Pride are lucky to have a defensive corps that's been there for a while in general, and I think Turnquist can only add to that. She's someone who I think is good enough. She can fight her way into being in that lineup, maybe being their 6th defender even as a rookie.
I love it. I love it. And this is this the second pick for Clarkson in this draft? I think we had someone else.
Yeah, there was a second
round
overall pick. Blanking on her name. Kayla something.
Yeah, I think we had another.
The
Clarkson.
second pick to Connecticut. Because I was tweeting about it yesterday.
Yeah, so I think what I like about this draft so far is we've seen a lot of variety of teams represented, college teams, that is. And again, I think that just goes to the point that we were talking about earlier. This was such a great college season. I think it's only going to, thank you, Freeson, there you go. Thank you, Gal Pal Sports. That's right, yeah. I think it's just great that we had such a great college season, but also remember 2021 and even 22 could be really great years for seniors coming out, and depending on what the landscape is, definitely for the NWHL, there's some really great talent that is going to be available in the next year or two. Of course, we also know that there will be Olympic preparations going on, so it'll also be interesting to see how that impacts women's hockey. But yeah, I think there's going to be some really good talent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Olympic year always
exactly.
mixes things up a little bit. So it's different trying to project ahead when you have an Olympic year coming up. But yeah, there's a lot of really good juniors that are going to be seniors next year. Like we were talking about, it was a really good year in college hockey, not only because of the seniors that we're seeing drafted now, but it's just such a deep group. Women's college hockey is expanding so much. There's so many good players that are challenging each other, and the game and the competition is getting better. So I think we're going to see a lot of really good players for years to come. We talked about it earlier. Northeastern is such a deep team, and they had only 3 seniors. So they're bringing back so many players, and they're going to be so good.
Yeah,
just as an
absolutely.
example, one team.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good times. Let me see. I'm going to check my messages here. All right. Let's see. No new pick yet. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Let us know in the chat, where are you joining us from? I know we've got some Minnesota representation, California, Canada. Of course, Boston and New York from you two hosts here. Let us know where you're watching from as we wait on this next pick coming in.
Connecticut was the first pick of the
5th round. All right, let's see. Uh-oh. Marissa's freezing on. All right, Syracuse,
No,
Rhode
sorry.
Island, North Carolina, Indiana, Jersey representing, Jersey strong in the house. Ooh, Florida. All right. Talked a little bit about Florida yesterday. Been a handful of NWHL players coming from Florida.
growing
Is the
hockey
next pick
area.
in yet? Yeah, for sure.
No, it might be a
in
minute
between rounds.
picks, so it's another round. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're in between rounds here.
My guess is it's going to be pushed out till 9, probably.
Yeah.
Not next round, but like the rest of the draft will probably be another half hour, fit into a tidy 2-hour window.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also works for IG Live, so we're thankful. Oh, man. So what have been your, other than writing amazing hockey content, what have been some of your top quarantine activities?
I got a cat, so that's taken up a lot of time. Just like taking care of her. You see me turning all the time. She's taking a nap or taking care of herself. She's taking a bath now, but she was taking a nap earlier, and she's sleeping on the heater, which makes me nervous. So I always keep an eye on her over there. So that I've been trying to learn how to cook, because I've never really cooked before until like a week before quarantine. I just happened to get interested, and now I'm glad because I'm doing that. Watching a lot of Netflix, a lot of phone calls with my best friend who's a sports journalist in Annapolis. That's been pretty much, I've been trying to like get really good at that in quarantine. So when I'm out in the world, I know how to look good. That's been about it.
Into more of a practice of cooking. I love cooking, but I almost never have time to cook, and when I have time, I don't have the money to like get all of the stuff that I want. I'm like, I'm either broke or busy. So but so it's been a lot of that. I've been doing some online courses, like trying to up my social media game, hence trying IG Live for the first time. I just think that there's so many different ways that people are engaging now, so I want to try and get ahead of the curve there. I spent a lot of time with the WNBA draft. I was able to kind of follow the New York Liberty and Sabrina Ionescu around for a week. So that was really exciting. Oh, wow. It was, yeah. And then I spent like the 4 days after the draft resting and sleeping. But as far as watching, I've been kind of going back to shows that I never watched. One show that kind of just was on Hulu that ended up kind of looping for me was the Goldbergs. You know, I think, yeah. And what a hilarious show. I live with my sister here in Harlem, and she's like, "Are you watching the Goldbergs again?" Because I'm just like hysterically laughing.
Your
So that's
sister's
been
a
fun,
right?
One of my sisters, yes. One of my sisters, Alexis, yep, she went to grad school. Yeah, there's three of us, three Ayala girls. But my sister Jessica is the one that I'm here with. We're locked down. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been interesting. I think I said earlier today, it's almost like every day is its own adventure. Some days are great and I feel really productive. Other days I'm like, okay, I did the dishes. I feel so accomplished.
Yeah.
Now I'm going back to bed.
Yep. Oh, I've had like a lot of weird sleeping habits where I like go to bed at like 3 or 4 a.m. now and wake up at like 10 and check my phone and then go back and sleep till like 1, and then I start writing like all day, and then I look up and it's like 2 a.m. and I'm like, well, now it's time to have fun. So yeah. It's very weird habits right now.
Yeah, the time situation, no concept of time really. Some days I'm like, oh, I'll just sleep all day. Other days I'm like, I'll just stay up all night. Who knows what's happening? It's weird. It's a weird time. Kelly's
John
been watching.
Who's to say?
Yeah, who's to say? Who's to say? Kelly's been watching a lot of Marvel movies chronologically. I love that. Yes. I recently watched what was it? The Spider-Man Homecoming one?
Oh, that's a good movie.
Yeah. I
saw that in the movies. I took my brother to that for his birthday last year, and we loved it.
Wow, they came in hot with the Whitney Houston. I was like, oh my gosh, this is too much. That was fun. Yes, right? The Goldbergs is so fun. Love it. Sisters make list. Yeah, check it out. Sisters make good roommates most of the time. That is true. You know, it's good if you're going to be a little crazy to be with someone who's known you your whole life, or you've known them their whole life. But it also, you know, makes for interesting sparring. But overall, really good to just be with someone that, you know, knows the level of crazy that you are and loves you anyway.
For sure.
Yes. Tweets at all random times of the day and night. Just putting it out there, have a thought, roll over, tweet it, go back to sleep. It's been interesting. It's been interesting for sure. All right, let's see. Still Donna. So let me ask you, you said you spoke to Digit. I've spoken to Digit since she's been announced. What do you make just overall of Digit Murphy coming back to women's pro hockey?
It's very interesting because I feel like she's someone who, whether it was true or not, there was kind of the perception of her being anti-NWHL, anti-Danny Ryland for a while. So her being involved, I think, I wrote about this for the Ice Guard, and I really feel like she's kind of a bridge between the NWHL and people who might not believe in the NWHL. All the players I spoke with who signed with Toronto mentioned her being a part of it as a reason why they signed. So I think that her presence in the league is really important.
I agree.
Everybody, GamerDoc here.
Hey, we've got
NWHL Open Ice on Twitch.
Familiar face.
I know times have been tough recently, so I hope we're all remaining kind, both to our housemates, our roommates, our kids, but also ourselves. I am so thrilled and so happy to watch the NWHL continue to make strides forward and bring so much joy into so many of our lives. And I'm happy to announce that with the first pick in the 5th round of the 2020 NWHL Draft, the Connecticut Whale select from Adrian College forward Nicole Gualiardo. Congrats, Nicole.
Adrian College. Back in the day, we had the Adrian Trio in Buffalo. So another forward, yeah, for Connecticut.
Another D3 for Connecticut.
Yep, D3, Adrian College. We've seen folks from Adrian, usually traditionally with Buffalo, but I like this. I like this pick. Good to see GamerDoc. For those who don't know, GamerDoc, Lindsay, goes by GamerDoc on social media. She is the host of NWHL Open Ice, which is like a talk show that is on Twitch. That's my show, but more about that later. But Twitch is what I'm looking for there. Great show. But yeah, I like more forwards for Connecticut. That does mean that there might be, again, going back to what we were talking about, maybe some competition for spots, or maybe we'll see some shakeups here and there. We know that sometimes players hop around, again, just depending on what's happening in life and if they're moving, etc. I think it'll be interesting to see what this Connecticut Whale roster looks like and how different that might be. When I spoke to Bray Catchum-Peel, she does want a certain level of consistency. That has been a challenge for Connecticut. Since after that first season, I feel like every year they've had at least, 3 or 4, and I would argue core players of theirs depart for another team or just leave the league altogether. So I'm curious to see what consistency Connecticut brings for this season, but also how they can build and integrate some of these picks into their team.
And Connecticut more than probably anyone, but I think that a lot of players selected this year are going to have a lot of opportunity to make that team. I think there's a lot of room for competition there. I think that there's a few jobs that are safe, obviously, like Shannon Doyle or someone. There are some players who are just going to be in the lineup there, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity for competition for young players on that roster.
I agree. I think we even saw that throughout the season. Connecticut ran through a lot of their PTOs, their professional tryout contracts. And, I think they were trying to see what was going to stick. Again, we talked about this earlier, the PWHPA kind of going with their model impacted Connecticut a lot, as well as the Riveters. I think also just because of where they are regionally and kind of the jobs that are available, but then also the cost of living. So yes, I totally agree with you that we're going to see a lot of competition. Looks like the 5th round is rolling along.
We have
so
drone racing
you back here
in the queue.
I know.
Jacobson. I'm thrilled to be here today with my twins to announce the 2020 NWHL Draft pick for Buffalo. Earlier this week, I was announced as the president of the Drone Racing League, the global professional circuit for drone racing. I'm a big advocate for women in sports, so I'm personally excited to be with you today. For Buffalo's final selection in the 2020 NWHL Draft,
Buffalo selects from RIT
defender Logan Land. Congratulations, Logan. Welcome to the league.
Logan Land, RIT. That's the school I couldn't remember earlier. But
You're now Division I RIT.
First of all, yes, now they're Division I. We've seen a few RIT grads come through the league, particularly early in the league's history. Also, I just have a special place in my heart. We talked about my sisters. My sisters are twins. We had some twins here represent the final Buttes pick. So RIT is up there in Western New York. I'm curious to see if now that we see another RIT alumna come through the draft, if that will be something that we see happen in the future. I've been saying prior to this draft, and Marisa, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. It seems as though the NWHL was definitely a league that it was kind of word of mouth, and players were able to really do, even in season throughout the PTOs, that GMs and coaches relied on players to kind of help do some of that recruiting. And I think we've seen that open up a little bit through the draft. Of course, we'll have to see who signs and who plays. But, I always find it interesting to see when we have clusters of players come from the same college program.
Yeah, you're right about word of mouth, that being a thing. And also, that can be a good recruiting tool. If you're like, oh, well, your friend or your former line mate's going to be on the team, do you want to join them? And that might help a player go to your team compared to some other team or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that we still see some of that go on in general. You look at someone like Jordan Duran, who left the PWHPA, and her whole story of how she joined a Pride. she was hanging out with Kaylee Fratkin, and she was like, oh, we need someone tonight. And then next week, Coach John is playing, and she's a part of the pride and now part of the discourse of like the PW versus the NW and all that. And it turned out she was just like, well, I was just there and wanted to play. So I think we see a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We always hear how small this hockey community is, and I think word of mouth definitely plays a role along with just availability and willingness to maybe commute a little bit. We see players like, MJP, Marie-Jo Pelletier, who played her rookie season with the Buffalo Beauts and has re-signed. I have an interview coming up, but I'll let our folks here know, and I talked about it yesterday. She's a player who she's commuting a little bit to play with the Beauts in this second season, even though now there is a team that's going to be in the Toronto area. But she kind of fell in love with the organization and the program. And also you have to remember, if players have a choice, all things equal, you want to look at fit, especially for players maybe that are coming from the PWHPA. Or Taylor Kersey on Open Ice talked about her college experience and maybe not getting the ice time that she wanted as an NCAA athlete, and then finding through the pro ranks that she was able to get a little bit more into the style of hockey that she likes to play, that is kind of organic and natural for her talents. So you have to think about those things as well. All other things being equal, certain teams might just be a better fit for certain players. And I think that makes it exciting.
Definitely. I mean, something about the NWHL is there's always going to be some geographic presence, but I think as players play in the league and as it grows, there's going to be players choosing teams more like we see in the NHL or more established leagues that have been around longer, where they look at fit and not just where the team is.
Exactly.
Everybody,
all right, we've got another pick in.
Blue Jackets. Hope everyone out there is doing okay and looking out for one another. As a proud Connecticut native, I'm happy to announce with their 5th round pick in the 2020 NWHL Draft, the Connecticut Whales select from Sacred Heart University in my home state, forward Maddie Bishop. Congratulations, Maddie.
More forwards.
Maddie Bishop, Sacred Heart. I like this.
That's a great pick.
I like this a lot. Sacred Heart. No names are coming to the top of my mind as far as Sacred Heart in the NWHL, but I like this.
I don't believe there's any in the NWHL right now, but that's a program that's been kind of on the rise. There have been some good players out of that program. I like her to the Whales. She's someone I thought Connecticut could pick. Very forward-heavy draft for them so far. I mentioned it earlier. I think Connecticut, on paper, is the winner of this draft. I think Boston is too, but Boston's a team that's going to recruit pretty easily, and they're going to be pretty good no matter who they draft. Where for Connecticut, this is a really important draft. They're getting players they're going to rely on. So for me, I believe that's it for Connecticut. I believe that's their last pick.
I think so.
I really like what they did this draft.
Yep. So that means in this round, for the 5th round, we have, I think it's the Riveters have another pick, and
then Boston has the last 2.
Oh,
Toronto
Boston
doesn't have any anymore.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah, we have the Rivs, and then we have 2 Boston.
Okay. I like that pick for Connecticut. I agree with you that they need a good draft. They needed a good draft. I do, though, kind of going off of that, Boston, as good a draft as they could for a team that, again, just has a surplus of talent. Even if everyone from last season comes back, they had difficulty cracking that roster. But what do you make of, we didn't talk about this too much, but them trading up to get that number 1 pick. So in the NWHL, this is a little bit different than what you might see because, there's not necessarily funding to have Sammy Davis go to Minnesota or to go to Toronto. So what that tells me is that, maybe do you think that maybe they were concerned that the Riveters or the Connecticut Whale might get her? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if the Pride had waited for the 5th overall pick, or 6th overall pick, I guess, I think they know that Davis would have been gone. Connecticut definitely would have taken a crack at her. And I think for Toronto, it was a good move because anyone they were going to pick, I think, was going to be later on anyways. They weren't going to take Davis 1st overall. That wasn't going to be a fit. So I think that was a good trade for them because now they get a 1st rounder next year. They get a 2nd rounder next year. And for the Pride, it's not that much to give up on paper. Because you think about it, the Pride more than likely aren't going to have the first or second overall pick next year. They're going to have a late first rounder anyways, a late second rounder anyway. So that's not a huge loss. And they have so many players they're going to build around who are going to stay with that team. Like we were talking about, they're not stuck on needing the draft like a team like Connecticut might. So I think overall that was a trade that made a lot of sense for both organizations.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. I wanted to make sure to get your insight on that because I know you were following, of course, being from BU yourself, and of course knowing that program really well. You would know Sammy Davis, and I know you had talked to a few members, as you said, from the Boston organization. So I agree with you. I think though also it could be, given who we know is essentially available, right, and projected to finish out their college career by this upcoming NCAA season, that could also be a really good look for Toronto if they have those high picks locked in, regardless of, to your point about Boston, regardless of how they finish.
Right. Or just Minnesota's pick.
Yep.
Not
Here we go. Let's get this up for everyone.
I'm Bob Solwesser from Maplewood, Minnesota. Along with my fellow season ticket holders, Chase and Dennis, we're very proud to represent the thousands of diehard fans of the Whitecaps. There's nothing better than the full houses at every Whitecaps game, and we believe in our still reigning Isabel Cup champions and everyone in the NWHL. A special shout out to everyone in the newest city to join the NWHL. Hello, Toronto. We can't wait to see your team playing at Tree Rink this season. And now, here's the draft selection.
With their final pick in the NWHL 2020 draft, the Minnesota Whitecaps select
from the University of Wisconsin, defender Maddie Rowe. Congratulations, Maddie.
Maddie Rowe. Look at that.
Another Badger. They get a defender.
I like that. I also like that Minnesota getting some of the season ticket holders involved. But did you hear that? The still reigning Isabel Cup champions.
It's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
It's not wrong. Wants to argue it, but it's not wrong.
It's not wrong. Just like it's not wrong that the New York Mets have not lost a game yet this season. So
they found a way to not lose.
I'm so happy. I don't remember the last time I was this happy as a Mets fan. But jokes aside, I mean, Minnesota, the state of hockey, it's known as the state of hockey for good reason. I love that, getting some of the fans involved. That's a defender, yeah, from Wisconsin.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's solid. Mike Murphy and I were talking a little, and Kelly, if you're still in here, I'd love to get your thoughts. But, you know, some of the defenders on the Whitecaps, there's some of the more veteran, seasoned players that have been with the program since before it joined the NWHL. I'm thinking Winnie Brown in particular. I'd still take Winnie on my team. I love how tenacious she plays.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, just thinking of wanting to build out a franchise over time, getting some young blood in there that they can work with the veterans, and then that way you're covered with injuries. You're covered if there are some changes that happen with your roster. But yeah, so again, I love defenders. I love seeing defenders going up. So I know there's not always as much space as you might want for defenders, but Kelly's given us Rose an outstanding defender. Love seeing her, Hockey Bob. All right, that's Hockey Bob and other season ticket holders. Dan Koch, associate head coach at Wisconsin. Maddie is a physically strong player who can defend. She can also get up on the rush and create some offense. I think that is really important. I think at times Minnesota struggled. They're so fast. I think almost they're so fast and they're so potent on offense. Sometimes their weaknesses showed on defense last season. They were able to shore that up a little bit, particularly when they got that win over Boston. But I think overall, having a player as she's described, who can defend, can be a strong defender, but also be proficient and be able to join the rush, sounds like a really good mix for Minnesota to me.
For sure. And now we have Boston, the last two picks coming up.
All right, let's go.
They just announced one of them, which I
from the Pride Diehards.
didn't get to
I'm very
predict.
proud to represent the fans of the Boston Pride in announcing this draft pick. In the first of 2 fifth-round picks in the NWHL 2020 draft, the Boston Pride selects of the University of New Hampshire forward Megara McManus. Congratulations, Megara. We look forward to having you represent the Pride.
More UNH.
There you go. You called it.
Megara McManus. I love that pick. This is what I was talking about, was an all UNH line potentially. That would be a lot of fun. She was a top liner for UNH. She can score. She's really good at dishing the puck as well, has some speed. That's a really good pick. She played with Patinia on the same line, I believe, at least for a little while too. So I'm a big fan of the UNH connection. Lots of New Hampshire people in general joining the Pride.
Yeah, I like
their
it.
next
I
pick.
like it.
Who I think their next pick is going to be is a New Hampshire native, not from UNH, but New Hampshire native, I believe, is their next pick.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
I think there's some Northeastern in their future.
Interesting. You know, going back to UNH and the story that I'll be writing for Power Plays, of course, that's run by Lindsay Gibbs. If you haven't checked out, Marisa Ingemi wrote a piece on Katie Gay that went up today? That went up today yesterday. Okay. Went up yesterday. Check that out. But I'll be doing a little bit of women's hockey history. And UNH, that's one of those early programs that you really had to watch out for in the beginning of NCAA women's hockey. Not necessarily a program like the Cornells or the Browns that had been around since early, but once more, established women's hockey started, UNH was right up there with some of the best of them. So lots of hockey history there.
Professionals too. Like look around the NWHL in general. They're really good at just producing good professional hockey players.
Yeah, I believe I was talking about Mighty Mouse, MJP. She came from UNH.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how I learned that her name is Pelletier, not Pelletier.
There you go. Yeah, Pelletier. And also my birthday twin. It's almost May 8th, folks. I was thinking about this earlier and I wasn't sure if I was going to get it into the broadcast, but here it goes. UNH. Sam Faber and I, birthday twins. But she's from New Hampshire as well.
Tourist season.
That's right. Boop, boop.
Someone needs to do NWHL teams as zodiac signs. Someone needs to write that.
Let's go.
The Pride are naturally Leos, obviously, which I share as a Leo.
Who do you think gets Gemini?
Ooh.
It might depend on the season. I think I might go Buffalo, though.
I was going to say, I think Buffalo's a good fit for Gemini.
Yeah, right?
I feel like Minnesota has some Scorpio energy going on.
Ooh.
They're at least Scorpio rising or something.
Scorpio rising, right?
Just a hint.
Little taste. A dash, a
treat.
sprinkle. A little sprinkle. Oh, man.
So we have one pick left, and that ends the NWHL draft afterwards. Hopefully we get a lot of announcements of players signing. I tweeted earlier, I'm sure the announcement will come soon. Sammy Davis has signed with the Pride officially. So we haven't announced it, but that's what happened.
Breaking news for Marisa and Ingemi Bomb here on IG.
I think we're going to see a lot of signings in the coming days.
I love it. You'll love to see it. Also, you're getting a stick tap here. A little shout out for your lipstick. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I like the shade. I just found this shade at Sephora 3 days before quarantine started, and I'm gonna wear it.
Look at that. Well, you can wear it on IG.
I've been doing as many video things as possible just so I can I just learned how to do the winged eyeliner. I just figured out how to do that 2 weeks ago, and I'm trying to find excuses to do it.
I love it.
We have our last pick coming shortly. I like Northeastern defender Paige Capistran. I think she would be a very good fit to compete with Turnquist as a rookie defender on the team. So I think that would be a really good pick for the Pride.
I like it. Ooh, look at this. You're getting firing Marisals. Okay, so let's hear it straight from the source. What do you like for your breaking news? Would you want to go in Jemmy Bomb? I kind of like Maristals. Do you have
Who said
another?
that? Who came up with Maristals?
That's from Gal Pal Sports.
I like that one. In Gem Bomb and Jemmy Bomb, it's all fine. I enjoy all of it. I think Alani came up with in Jemmy Bomb, and people have been running with that, so that's fine with me. It's not quite a Woj bomb.
Not quite a Woj bomb. I kind of like Maristals because it's clever. Your own thing. It's like, you don't need to be like Woj. You don't need to be like men's basketball. This is, we're claiming this for hockey.
It's just going to be confusing if there's another Marisa who reports on hockey in the future. Here we have our Florence Schelling finally.
All right, let me start from the beginning, folks. We're going to get you the whole thing of the new GM here.
I'm Florence Schelling, Olympian with Team Switzerland, and now GM of SC Bern. As a proud Husky, I'm extremely excited to announce that for the final selection in the 2020 NWHL Draft, the Boston Pride select from Northeastern University, defender Paige Capistran. Congratulations, Paige.
There it is.
Great pick. That's a fantastic pick.
Maristals launched.
That's an awesome pick. She did so much for that Northeastern team. Really, the heart and soul of a Northeastern team that had a couple of good years. Disappointing they didn't get to finish their year this season, but that's a good addition. Like I said, they have a lot of depth on defense, but her and Turnquist can really compete to be the rookie defender on that as that number 6 defender and rotate a little bit. This was a really good draft for Boston, and they were in a position to have a good draft, having the best team already. They could kind of, like we talked about, they didn't have to draft for need.
Yeah, I think, you've mentioned it a few times. Boston did really great with their picks. Connecticut needed to do great with their picks, and I think they did. I honestly think that all of the teams did really well. I would want to look and scour a little bit more for Buffalo. I'm not as familiar with some of their players coming out of college. I want to just kind of measure things up, look at that on paper again. Nothing stands out to me as like, whoa, blown pick. I think a lot of research went into this draft. And we talked about it at the top of the show, maybe more so than we've seen in the past for a number of reasons. But what were your main takeaways from the 2020 NWHL draft?
We talked about this a little bit. I think Connecticut won the draft. I think they did a really good job solidifying that team. No real surprises, like you said, nothing like too dramatic. I think the steal of the draft is going to end up being Amanda Conway. I think that was just such a fantastic pick. I think she's going to make a lot of noise. I think the goalies we saw go are going to get some time. And I think Boston did really well for itself. I think trading for that top pick is going to be worth it for them.
Yeah, agreed. I see some comments. This is like watching a draft with friends. Well, that's what we wanted. But again, we had to get the experts. Last night, Mike Murphy, a.k.a. Statsman, a.k.a. Just Murphy, a.k.a. one of the sweetest, kindest people you will ever have the privilege and honor of knowing. And then to follow that up with the Marisa, with her lip shade popping tonight, wings and everything. What an amazing draft this has been for me. Thank you, everyone who is able to join us. I think women's hockey is in a really great place. It's growing. I know we all get a little bit frustrated about some of the noise that's happening, but I think when you look in and you hone in on the players who heard their names called, and by some of the amazing people that got to call those names, you really can't argue that women's hockey isn't in a great place.
It's in a great place, and I think that you're right. Sometimes it does get lost with all the fighting, which some of that happens on social media. A lot of that happens behind the scenes that we'll never hear about. But I think, like I said earlier, the support that we saw, especially from so many really awesome women in sports from around the sports world, that they are supporting the NWHL, that says a lot about where the league is at and just how much support really is behind them.
Yep, and it's been a tough year for everyone. We're all going through it now. It's been a really tough year for women's hockey. No, we didn't get a Frozen Four. We didn't get Worlds. Four Nations we didn't get. But here's hoping that we can come back strong. No, I know, no Isabel Cup. Don't remind me. But I think we're gonna close it out here. Thank you so much for joining us on IG Live. Thank you to you, Marisa. Make sure you go follow Marisa, follow Mike Murphy, and as always, we'll be back with the Founding Four Pod for all your WoHo wants and needs. Good night, everyone. Stay happy, stay healthy, and be kind to one another. Bye-bye.